in game?
Yeah, I'm gonna be recording a game and streaming just for purposes. And yeah, I'm in game right now on Peach Tea. Um,
Wait, wait, what are we doing?
wasn't
With
it?
like in game? Are we just doing a custom game?
More than likely.
Oh, okay.
Is there another format that works better? I'm like, I don't know. I'm
No,
genuinely asking.
well, I have no idea what we're. I'm just letting you take the lead here.
Oh, well, let's see. I'm just looking for. So I guess the theme of today's VOD review, or just general review, is some good old Overwatch fundamentals. And thinking about things from a team perspective so that we are much more informed as a group rather than playing as a group of individuals. I think if there's one thing that's been super apparent to me um, in trying to learn this ball tracer Zen comp now with Diva is that the comp is weird and difficult as is, but a lot of the challenges I feel we're facing are related to the fact that we're just really not super sure how to engage on heroes and compositions that we're not very comfortable with. Um, or just on different, like we don't really have a leg to stand on when it comes to those things. Let's see. I'm gonna do this game mode, and I'm going to put us on. Uh, Hit up good old maybe Blizzworld again. Sure. Nice. I see that. I saw that. Nice Guan Yu. Um,
Oh, I should probably close your stream, shouldn't I?
that might be okay. You're also gonna be the owner. I don't know why.
Always.
Yeah, whatchamacallit. So, I wanted to go over a little bit of sort of the uh, some things I had in mind. Let me gather my notes. I was at work today and I wrote up like too many pages of notes. So,
Okay.
yes, the legal pads. Something feels so right about using legal pads, I swear. Yeah, I titled my little set of notes Digesting a Composition, and it became a little less about digesting a team composition and more about being able to just really hang in the game Overwatch at all. Um, let's see. What's up, Stinky? See ya. When I was like considering how to approach interpreting a composition and stuff like that. That was the first goal of my notes is to help provide some guidance on how to interpret a composition. So first I wanted to start with sort of the heroes. And when we're talking about the heroes involved in the composition, we're talking about like abilities or cooldowns. I did a little section on health pools and resources, effective ranges and damage. So, like, where do we want to play, and where do our team members find the most value, or just where do they want to be in general? I think it's a much easier way to word it. Then synergies. So, are there any innate synergies that between some of the heroes that we've chosen? And thinking like Pull Hook or mainly Orisa and like almost everybody. Um, Mercy damage boosting somebody. Like when you have a nice symbiotic relationship between two characters, um, those are your synergies sometimes. Talking about healing sometimes. So the types of healers that you have, and the type of healing that they do. Just a little bit thinking about those comps and or thinking about that as a framework to understand some compositions. So I guess we can apply a little bit of that logic to do you want to do it to the Ball Tracer Zen comp, or like we could really go with anything and interpret the compositions?
I'd say we should probably go over what we're gonna run for the most part next week.
Well, yeah. What's that gonna be?
See, it's weird because the map pool is Hanamura, Havana, Eichenwald, which none of those lend themselves to one specific composition, unless we're playing meta, which is this. So, mm, maybe we should just do it on this since it's fresh in
trendy.
our minds.
The thing. Yeah, I'd love to. So yeah, first things talking about like the heroes and understanding. So again, I want to like run through those categories again and think about how it applies to your hero, like specifically. So I'm talking about like abilities and cooldowns. So like for me on Brigida, my abilities are like armor packing with E. I have whip shot, which is really nice. I have shield bash, which is also pretty good too. And I guess that's technically it for abilities and cooldowns. Health pools and resources. So Brig has a shield, 250 HP, pretty handy. Health pool, she's got 150 armor or 150 health and 50 armor, which is pretty helpful. That matters because armor, if you didn't know, actually is pretty good into shotguns and like multi-hit sort of spray things. It's just how the health type functions, so pretty useful. So we have the barrier, effective range. I want to play sort of close to medium range is Brig. Long range she doesn't really do. Pretty much the length of a whip shot away is our maximum desired distance to play. And yeah, damage is pretty okay. Synergies. So Brig synergizes well with Zen in this comp, our other support, because she can really hard peel for him, and that's that's just what he likes. That's just what they both like. Her CC is a pretty good, or just effective against flankers and those who do not want to be CC'd, which is pretty much everybody, I guess. That's sort of a, I don't know if I would call it an anti-synergy or something like that. And healing, her healing is mostly sustained healing, not burst. So that's a really key thing to note about Brigida. Packing people isn't like it used to be where it instantly heals them. Instead, it's, whatchamacallit, just heals over time. And that's sustained healing. Let's see, what else? Oh yeah, I wrote like a bunch of questions on the sheet, as if I was going to present it to you guys. And unfortunately, it looks like that's not going to be able to happen tonight. But yeah, just thinking about your heroes in terms of your abilities and cooldowns, how you might want to use them in general, like just what feels good. Like whip-shotting a person in the brain, and then it makes that sound. And it's like, oh yeah. Or shield bashing a person who doesn't want to be stunned. Pretty fun too. You have your health pools and resources, understanding a little bit about that. Effective ranges and damage where you want to play and how much damage you do. Have synergies, which is heroes that you are pretty good with alongside. And healing, I suppose, is pretty good. So yeah, just thinking about your characters in terms of things like that is pretty fundamentally good, or it creates a somewhat fundamentally sound individual understanding of the game. Do you have anything to add there, Topaz, or?
Not necessarily. It's pretty straightforward.
So yeah, that is the first little.
So I think you can still ask those questions and then have people think about it, that you were mentioning earlier.
Well, the thing is that there's like a lot of them.
Okay.
Yeah, like I was talking about like let's see here. So
Maybe
abilities.
just post on the text channels later.
Yeah, I think I'll have to take a picture if my handwriting isn't too terrible. I don't think it's that bad though, so should be good. But yeah. So the second that first little set of notes was sort of the really low level sounds condescending. So I'm going to say the least abstract and most concrete sort of things for Overwatch fundamentals. They're all about your hero. They're all centric on the hero, the team comp, and how it's sort of just what you have on the table in front of you. Now we're going to graduate a level to whatchamacallit, the compositional playstyle, and beginning to understand how we want to play as our heroes. Just that, nothing more. So whatchamacallit. So we have 6 heroes who are doing things together. In this case, Ball, Diva, Tracer, and well, there's a lot you can play. Tracer, Sombra, we'll say for now, and then Brig, Zen. Let's see, Zen has no mobility, so this won't be any fun. But yeah, whatchamacallit. So, starting to think about things like what is our communal mobility? So, how would you describe how mobile Ball Tracer, Ball Diva, Tracer Sombra, Brig Zen is? So, some of the questions that I have are like, where can we move in like a short period of time, or just a given period of time? How far can we move? Second of all, like, how many and who of our team can we move together effectively? And generally, like, can we rotate to high ground? Is that something that's feasible for some of our characters? Like, consider, I guess, the fact that who's a good example for this? Like, there are fast characters like Tracer who have a tough time reaching the high ground as easily as someone like Winston does. Winston presses shift. Tracer has to find the stairs. So whatchamacallit, like, how feasible is it for us all to move together is another pretty big one. In Brawl, obviously pretty easy for us to move together because no one really has a big mobility advantage over the others besides Lucio sometimes. Let's see. And then we get to some of the fun stuff. So we're talking about mobility and stuff like that, and how mobile characters are. And now we get to the more, a little more the crazy part, I feel. I kind of jumped right into engagements and disengagements onto this, or in this. So this isn't relating to like any playstyle, or this is relating solely to the playstyle and just the heroes. So it is very much Overwatch in a vacuum as opposed to very specific approaches that we want to take. I'll let you guys derive those. So starting with the engagements and disengagements, the question that I asked was, how effectively can we get our team to enter their effective range, or wherever we want to play? So how effectively can we say, like, for an engagement, we're running Ball, we're running Diva, we're running Sombra and Tracer. These are all pretty highly mobile characters who are able to lock down targets with relative ease. You can see as Topaz is just flying around here and stuff like that, that Diva, she sure does fly. Tracer sure does blink. Ball is really good at slamming and creating that sort of engagement spot for his team. So I think this comp, Ball Tracer Diva, is really fundamentally pretty alright at whatchamacallit, getting our team to enter their effective range. Because, I mean, the most of us have to do, or the most that we have to do sometimes is spend cooldowns to get there, like blink and just movement cooldowns, like blink and hook and boosters and stuff like that. Just stuff to consider. The fact that we're using cooldowns at all. Let's see. So yeah, like, then, what was it? Yes, how effectively can we retreat from that space if we need to? So thinking about some of our mobility and stuff like that, Ball's pretty good at rolling away and stuff like that, provided you use cover. Diva has D-Matrix and, again, her boosters. Sombra can translocate out. Tracer can recall or move. Like, in general, the least mobile people are your backline, your Brig and your Zen and stuff like that. So you have to be mindful of that when we're considering this all too. But yeah, for the most part, 2/3 of our team is really effective at disengaging and engaging, which is really cool. They're all very highly mobile. It doesn't take a long time for them to mobilize and get to a place that they want to be, which I think is what makes this comp really, really cool to watch. Like, that's what I was talking about with this idea of, what was the word that I used for it? Like, convergence. Like, people are just chilling around here and around a million corners, and then, like, at the call of a name, suddenly we are all in the same location on the same target, or peeling somebody. That's because we're so effective at moving and taking engagements and disengaging. It's high mobility comp, that is the payoff that you get. Let's see. So another question to ask for engagements and disengagements is, do we need to commit cooldowns to help engage? So in the case of this composition, yes, because we are using mobility cooldowns to get onto a target or to get to where we want to be. Another example of this is like Lucio speed and brawl and stuff like that. Like, it's a kind of a textbook condition. Like, nobody else really has movement cooldowns to use besides like Rhine charge, I guess. and like depending on the brawl you have, whatever. But yeah, like Lucio speeds so that his teammates can benefit off of that speed. He's using a cooldown to help us engage in a brawl comp, much in the same way we're using our own movement cooldowns to engage on the enemy and disengage as well. Then the next question I had was like, as we engage, what are we looking to do? So what is the purpose of our engagement? Why are we fighting here? In some cases, we're looking for targets. In some places, we're looking to pressure enemies out. Some engagements we're looking to potentially bait enemies. But these are all strategies that are going to play into the third part, which is the most abstract macro sort of, or the more abstract and macro sort of things. Let's see. So yeah, like an example that I listed, like as we engage, what we're looking to do on Ball Chaser Zen is probably going to be something like bursting down a squishy, or cleaving or trading damage so that we can pressure people out of somewhere. This is reasons, fair reasons that we would take an engagement, or reasons, whatchamacallit, that we can disengage as well. So the next section that I had before the biggin was vulnerabilities. So whatchamacallit, it's pretty much the same as another category that I had written in the first one ahead of time. So whoops. And yeah, vulnerabilities to me are sort of things like, are there things that counter our heroes, or are there concepts that our heroes capitalize on that can be exploited against us? If you've played a Winston into a Reaper, you are probably familiar with this sort of vulnerability. Like, if a team runs high CC into a highly mobile character, there's a good chance that that highly mobile character is going to probably get rolled a little bit by that CC. So what are we vulnerable to? For Zenyatta in this composition, like, it's highly mobile characters sometimes, and getting hard ganked by like 4 people. As there's nothing that Brig or D.Va can do sometimes to protect the Zen based on how fast the enemy engages on you. So that's a weak point for Zen. A weak point for Brig is getting probably hacked or something like that. And a big one for D.Va too is getting hacked. Like, you got to think about the vulnerabilities per your hero and stuff like that, and understanding them in the context of this comp. What's up, Stinky? Why are you red now? Oh, I forgot you're the owner. Haha, look at that. Hey, be nice. Come on now. No, whatchamacallit, oops. If you ever come up these stairs, which you're not, yeah, anyways, whatchamacallit, let's see, what was it again? Yeah, so considering the vulnerabilities per your character. So we're sort of talking about in this section, like, the way that our 6 heroes want to play, and when we're talking about that, we sort of have to acknowledge the way that our individual heroes want to play, which is a little bit of the first section and a little bit of the second section as well. So figuring out how you fit into the bigger picture, what your weakness is or what your weaknesses can be, and how you can help eventually mitigate those weaknesses and their effectiveness against you and your team. So the last section is whatchamacallit. For this part is mid-fight, which is kind of big. Whatchamacallit, mid-fighting is a crazy sort of thing. So we talked a little bit about engaging and disengaging. And regardless of whether or not you are successful in whatchamacallit, in completing the goal of your engage, so say like, okay guys, I'm diving Zen, okay? Whatchamacallit. If whether or not you fail or succeed in killing Zen, you have to sort of clean up the mess after. You have to play out the mid-fight and stuff like that. So mid-fight is a huge thing that we're talking about when we're talking about Overwatch fundamentals. Get that out of here. Whatchamacallit, so yeah, it's hard to come up with a definition for that sort of thing.
What exactly?
For mid-fight. Like, I wanted to come up with a definition that was more functional and effective than it was sort of scientific.
Yeah, that's a rough one there, buddy.
Yeah, I just defined it as like the period of time in which we can look to. It's a period after an engage, or after an engagement, in which we can either choose to disengage or re-engage. It's a period of time in between there. So, in a lot of cases, it's like maybe we walk up to each other in a composition and we take one of the enemy's heroes. Oh yeah, this is a good example. Like in Brawl Mirrors. So what I was saying a couple weeks ago is like if you pick the enemy Rhine, you want to keep playing slow because you don't want to trade your Rhines. That's an example of a mid-fight sort of concept. So we're engaging. The two Brawl teams meet up together, and whatchamacallit, they swing and they do their thing and blah blah blah. We're brawling, and suddenly we get a miraculous pick on the Rhine. Now we have to decide what we're going to do off the back of this, because the goal of our engage has been fulfilled. There's a world which we didn't kill the Rhine, or even which we lose the Rhine of our own. But no matter what world it is, we still have to we still have to yo, I'm like lagging all weirdly. No matter what, there's going to be that period of time after after the engagement where you have to decide what you're going to do again, and that is the real art of mid fight. So when we're talking about mid fighting and stuff like that, a lot of it is manipulating yours and the enemy team's sort of advantage, and advantage is going to be kind of a weird term. I'm trying to think of a better way to interpret this. So if you have any suggestions, please let me know. That said, what I have for like summing up some things for advantage is so talking about like so mid-fight advantages and stuff like that. I really want to go over a VOD and like contemplate some of this stuff.
Okay.
But it has to be like a pro VOD where it's a little bit more like clear what's going on.
That's fair. Do you have one in mind?
Like really, because these concepts are Overwatch fundamentals. Killed me. Whatchamacallit? Because they're like so fundamental to Overwatch, almost. I'm gonna go out on a limb and I'm gonna say, oh well, certainly every match that you will see will demonstrate some form of mid-fight fundamental. That's how crazy and abstract I made sort of these concepts and stuff like that. Or that I just that some of these concepts are and how common they appear. So yeah, when you're talking about mid-fight and stuff like that, we're talking about mid-fight advantage and manipulating that. I think advantages come from things like numbers, positioning, abilities, the character types that are remaining. So in the example with a brawl comp that loses their Rhine, like one team is down pretty much their shield, and that's going to be really devastating because that means as we play slow, whatever hit scan or just damage that we have that would normally get eaten by a shield is suddenly like that much more effective. Sorry, I needed the healing back. Whatchamacallit? So that's like a bit of a numbers advantage, a bit of a character types remaining advantage. The team without a Rhine loses the ability to shatter, loses the ability to shield and fire strike, whereas the team that still has a Reinhardt does, of course. We're talking abilities, so again, none of those things. I think I just said that. And health is a big mid-fight advantage. So one of those is like when you're low health and you're getting chased and stuff like that. Like a little bit in this instance. Like right now in this mid-fight, sort of, Topaz has the advantage over me because he's full health and I am very low. He's chasing me, so I have to run. Thankfully I can retreat to the safety of my spawn. But yeah, whatchamacallit, that's another thing that's going to play into sort of deciding whether our team can either re-engage or will have to disengage. So re-engagement is sort of the winnable sort of call, you know? And disengagement is obviously leaving or choosing to die or something like that. Oh, I thought you got that in the spawn for a second. Yeah, whatchamacallit. So yeah, that list of advantages and stuff like that is sort of pending. I was taking a bunch of customers at the time that I was writing that section, so it was a little potentially I could be missing something. That said, I think that's somewhat sufficient for now. But yeah, like pretty much the factors of advantage will sort of decide whether or not we can re-engage or disengage, which is sort of the purpose, I guess, if you look at it academically, of a mid-fight and stuff like that. Is there anything you want to add to that, or like anything at all, or like?
I don't really have anything.
Yeah, right. Like it's hard. Like I have all the examples in my head and stuff like that. Like there's just so many, because it's just how the game works sometimes. But yeah, I'll have to go over some VODs and stuff like that to really demonstrate the fundamentals and get us thinking in terms of these fundamentals so that we can start interpreting and digesting our team comps and not just digesting them, but really understanding them and being able to work as a team. Like that's why I took these notes. And that's why I'm having this review specifically. Let's see. So yeah, then we got to sort of the last section that I had, which is unfinished as of right now. But it's all about like the furthest from your hero sort of thing. So instead of things that you are or that you can control, it's the things that you sort of can't control, and that's going to be things like map types, or like game mode types, maps, map knowledge. Yeah, that's gonna play into that as well. Whatchamacallit, the matchup and stuff like that. I've been doing that all day, just blocking and then whip shotting. Block and then whip shot. Block and whip, ladies and gentlemen. No, whatchamacallit. I'm glitching all over the place. I don't know if it's this custom game thingy or just my Wi-Fi, but something is up, I swear.
I don't know, because you look fine to me.
Oh. I'm probably, yeah, like, you'll see it on the recording probably, but I've been having some weird spikes. So yes, things about the map and stuff like that. At first I started by, like, going through, like, what is a choke? And then it's like, no, that's kind of, like, kind of dookie. Like, I don't want to tell you guys... I'm not going to tell you guys how to play Overwatch. I'm just going to give you a framework to understand and parse the games that you can apply and sort of make your own. So things about the map and stuff like that, obviously, like knowing sort of your health pack locations, but more importantly than that and stuff like that is like identifying like where our comp sort of wants to be. Like where might our comp play around that's strong? Like everybody on this point of Blizzard World right here, everybody's like, oh, we gotta play the high ground. If you don't play the high ground, you're throwing. And it's like, well, why might that be? It's because high ground gives you a natural advantage. So here, peek me, stay up there, and I'm going to shoot you, and now I want you to close the angle. See, he's just retreated into the high ground. If it were me, I could even crouch, or if it was a character that could crouch, I would just crouch to close this angle. There's a lot of natural cover that provides you from the low ground, and you could shoot down on them and laugh at the enemy team. Whatchamacallit. So yeah, like, a little bit about where our comp might want to play. What's an advantageous location for us? Are there any structures that we can play around? So for this instance, if we were both playing on the ground, like, would I want to play around this terrace? These sightlines here? Would I want to play around these? Or inside over here? Like, this is a nice little structure, I think, for the Ball Tracer Zen comp. This is really cool. Whatchamacallit, let's see. So where can we put our supports is a pretty big question. That is going to come with a lot more of an academic view of the game and understanding where we want to position at all. So whatchamacallit, putting our supports in a location is pretty handy. Like a big example you think of is a server room in Gibraltar and stuff like that on point. Point A it is. Whatchamacallit. I can't believe I almost forgot. Um, and yeah, where can we sort of disengage to? So that's like a follow-up sort of question. And really, that's all I had for now of these notes and stuff like that, and fundamentals and stuff. There's a lot more questions that I have written down for you guys to sort of think about and query your mind with. But yes, these are questions that I think are going to be valuable to you guys as players, and not only identifying how to work with your characters and yourselves, just knowing that sort of thing, but working with a team and your game and stuff like that, and just chilling. I have to reload.
Is there so few people today because of the Super Bowl?
We're guessing. That's what it is.
Good to hear from you too. I'm rocking the terracotta BAP skin. Let's see. Yeah, whatchamacallit, I think, like, when, you know, I think I'm gonna do it. I think I'm gonna, like, pull up just some Overwatch stuff.
Okay.
I have to go, like, top down and, like, so we can really see some engages and stuff like that. First things first, I have the VODs. Do not think that I do on this account yet. So I'll pull up Busan, and then we'll start sort of talking about a little bit of some of the fundamentals and like engagements and stuff like that. Let's see. Life. Forgot that guy's name was that. I like it. So, whatchamacallit? Just looking at our comp again, like thinking about some of the questions that we have per the character that we are. So, sort of on my first sheet of notes and stuff like that. Talking about, let's see, here it is. Like our individual heroes and the heroes that make up this composition. What cooldowns do we have, abilities, health, and stuff like that. All the cool stuff, all the crazy stuff that makes our heroes unique. What are those, and understanding sort of those. And who can we potentially function well with. Yeah, just looking at ourselves and understanding, like, generally Brig is going to be around Zen or in a space where she can provide value in helping Zen. Sombra and the rest of these guys are super hypermobile. You could expect them to be just about anywhere, but hopefully diving together on some crazy squishy or looking for opportunities with hacks or something like that. Just stuff. Fun things. The enemy team in this case are running sort of a brawl comp with Junkrat and Moira, which is a little... I think that's cool. I think that's respectable. They're playing an interesting little style. So, when we're looking at the heroes here, we have to think about, like, why would they choose someone like Moira? Or why would they choose someone like Junkrat? And we can answer those in two pretty funny sort of different answers. Junkrat, obviously, you have to think about where he works well and stuff like that in this type of map, so... I mean, technically this is an enclosed map, especially when it comes up here. There is a very tangible ceiling and stuff like that, and some nice structures to play around here. Junkrat's pretty good at that area denial with his little projectiles and stuff like that. So there's a good chance that he can probably operate and put some real pressure on us up here. However, when we get down here and the point gets a lot open, first of all, there's high grounds all around him. If a Junkrat is standing here, he's going to be very uncomfortable because shooting up is really a struggle. If anything, he'd probably want to be on one of these high grounds shooting down on the enemy, you know? So, some stuff about that Junkrat. Moira obviously has resource. She's going to run out of resource eventually. So the longer a fight happens, the more opportunity we have to get picks on them, or just generally pressure them effectively because they won't have as much healing. So now we're sort of, we see them, we're locking eyes and stuff like that, and we're deciding what kind of, or what we want to do to start taking an engagement here, which is pretty cool. So again, as we're approaching taking an engagement, we have to think about some of the other things. Let me just pull up my little paper. Like where can we move to? How can we move together? Stuff like that. We're seeing that some here. We are sort of moving together, roughly. Choosing who moves where and stuff like that. And obviously the back line is still back here. Our high mobility friends are already over here. What's going to be the goal of this engagement, you might ask? That's a fair question, and one for you guys to sort of decide communally. I think a really important question when we're looking at this is like, okay, we're both fresh out of spawn, we're just arriving in the fight, they're running a brawl comp that really likes to stay close together. Are we going to be able to kill any one of them, like, really reliably? The answer varies in a lot of cases, but in this case, I don't think so. I don't think we're going to be able to really kill anyone on an engage here, unless it's the Junkrat or somebody who's really isolated. For that reason, I think that the purpose of our engagement here should be to try and create an opportunity like that. So trying to isolate somebody, roll through, drop somebody down and make them really vulnerable or something. Just trying to single someone out in this composition as opposed to roll into all of them or try and look for a super big slam and then get potentially really, really hurt by this Junkrat and this Reaper or something like that. Yeah, because it's going to be really, really difficult to kill any one of them right now, I think it's a little dangerous. So we look to apply some sort of group damage with this engage here. And we sure get some, but that's kind of what their healers want a little bit of. Like, Lucio's really good at that sustained sort of healing. There's not going to be a lot of damage that we're taking because they have Zarya for the damage mitigation. They have Rhine Shield and stuff like that. And while they're not they may not be as mobile as our squad or like our whole team pretty much, they're really good at sort of mitigating damage and rolling with the punches a little bit better than we can, or a little bit better than we are sometimes. So, have to be mindful of that. Like, I think a big question that we should be asking on these flankers and stuff like that to assist our engagements is whether or not we can really, like, whether or not somebody's killable, I think is a really big factor that we need to consider in looking for an engage or trying to get a purpose for an engagement. Helps you differentiate. And I'm sure, like, I guess it's really only supports and a tank here. But if any of us play flankers, like, it's really important to have a purpose for that flank, for sticking your neck out, you know? So in this case, we sort of... Peridot is very kind in giving us exactly what we want by isolating a target. His entire team really hangs him out to dry and he's late on the rotation. That's what we're looking for. We're looking for singling people out. We're looking for keeping them away from the group. So now our engagement has been... I mean, the first one didn't really work, but we've won out in this little engagement here at our initial thing. Now we're sort of entering a mid-fight. So we have to decide whether or not we're going to re-engage or disengage. We have a numbers advantage. They lost a Lucio, which means that it's going to be really hard for them to move, and as soon as this Moira runs out of her healing, group healing is going to be a pretty tough thing to come by. Meaning that they can't move anywhere, it's going to be pretty tough for them to sustain as well as they once did. So isolating individual targets is even more valuable here. So I think, whatchamacallit, we can sort of put the squeeze on them by making this fight last longer and keeping on poking them until we can isolate a single target. My best guess is probably going to be the Junkrat or the Moira. Then we can sort of look to try and kill these tanks. It's gonna be hard though. So luckily for us, we do sort of just that. So, Here's another pretty cool thing, or another thing that you can sort of see in this situation is consider the advantage that we have positioning wise. So on our team, we have somebody who wants to poke. We have somebody who's okay at this mid range, or is fine existing here. We have somebody who can poke and likes to roll through, pretty high self sustain, or pretty decent self sustain, I should say. He was okay. She all right. Then you have your Sombra and your Tracer, who are okay at mid to close range and stuff like that. Basically, all of these heroes are pretty good at just existing up here and poking, just shooting. That's what we want to do. Our sort of engagement, the place that we're going to need to be to find the most value is probably close quarters, but medium range is all right as well, if we're just wanting to poke. These guys, however, you have Zarya, who's pretty medium to close range, Reaper, who's pretty close range, Junkrat, who's pretty medium rangey, I guess I would say, Rein, who's super close range, and Moira, who's pretty close range as well. Consider the fact that we also have the high ground over them, so this gives us natural cover over them in their weak attempts to even try to reach us. We have a whole circuit surrounding this point, which is really nice as well. There's legitimately an onion ring of point for us to exist around and poke down the enemy from. This is fantastic for us, I think, and it's really rough for them. Going for point, I don't think is... It's the right play for the objective, which is of course getting points, but it's going to be really rough all playing from here. On a brawl comp, at least. Like, put yourself in their shoes and observe the frustration of this Reinhardt who can hit almost no one. All he can do is shield, and lose shield for that matter. There is a slight... I disagree with how we choose to take this fight. We're sort of trying to fight Rein on the ground in close quarters, which is okay, because I guess that's what D.Va wants to do, but do we want to be fighting Rein? Is he killable? Is that what our composition wants to do? Singling people out is something that Ball is really good at, and it's something that D.Va is really good at capitalizing on along with Tracer and Sombra. I think we should be looking for some of that on these dudes more than we are looking for even entertaining the thought of attacking Reinhardt or Zarya sometimes. And sometimes it's like you reach this and then it's like oh, sort of like, of course, you know, like, of course, why would I want to just get swung on by Reinhardt? Like, what value is this gonna find? Yeah, just apply it next time and we can move past. Let's see. Yeah, we actually see a little bit of this how we want to play Manifest here on the Zen. Like, super happy just staying up here and poking. Already have sort of an advantage. It was like sort of a soft re-engage that was failed. I guess the purpose of that re-engage was to try and find a pick, I guess, is the best thing. They don't really have a lot of space that they can give up. So yeah. Oh, and we haven't covered that yet. I'm lucky. In any case, whatchamacallit. So we tried to, I guess, get a pick maybe, and that sort of failed. And now we are sort of in another weird little mid-fight here where we have to choose whether we're going to disengage completely or re-engage. I think the option here is sort of obvious. We regen some health and then we go for the squishies. So thankfully Splat lands a huge pile drive here, and Clovis lands a huge volley here. I think this is pretty cool. I would have preferred sort of rolling through and isolating a target manually, because our Tracer has been waiting up here for that sort of exact thing this entire time, pretty much. But yeah. Let's see, we're sort of like running on Rein now, and I think that's okay, but like, the question you have to ask is like, is he killable? Was this worth? And to me, I don't think so. We could have played this a lot slower. You can also see that in sort of re-engaging with the purpose of finishing off these enemies here, we've sacrificed the high ground. There is no space for us to run if they run at us, which is a really big problem. It's what the Brawl comp wants. They want to be on level ground with us and walk at us, because that's what they're good at as a composition. Us, we're really good at poking and singling out targets. So there's going to be a slight problem here, and by that I mean a pretty decent sized problem. I don't really like how he played this for that reason. Now Zen has put an unnecessary risk. Really, it's up to everybody else to sort of do this. We didn't have to sacrifice the high ground at all. The fact that our Brig went down at all is... It's okay, because that's where she wants to be, but we have to be thinking about this engagement. We have to be communicating what we want from this engagement, which is, say, like, hey guys, let's try and kill Junkrat, or let's try and kill Ryan. And if we all know what we're doing, that's perfectly fine, but right now I'm not entirely convinced. We're sort of pressuring Ryan and stuff like that and calling Ryan, but we end up getting sort of sloppy and stuff like that, and costing way too much of our own lives to trade for a Reinhardt. Just kind of strange. And there's a lot of nuance I feel that I'm missing and going over here, but I think I'll keep going. Is there anything anybody like? Is there any way I can help you guys? Any questions that I can answer or something like this?
No questions so far from what I've heard.
Yeah, definitely let me know, because some of this stuff that I'm going over is pretty weird and just strange, so I'd love to make it more clear, run myself through the math too. Let's see. So yes, the fight goes on, and it is frankly way too close. Jeopardized a little bit too much. Now we've sort of accomplished a little. We haven't even really accomplished the purpose of our engagement in this mid fight yet, which is getting points or killing everybody who's on contesting point. Sacrificed ourselves, and in the way that we approached the fight really cost us. You can see now that we are sort of inclined to use an ultimate to keep the point here, which is not my favorite use of that. Thankfully this pulse bomb finds somebody, but now it's 2 ults sort of to the void. They have been unanswered by any ults by the enemy team. And yeah, ultimately we sort of turned a scenario that could have been really a lot more nuanced, and had we followed, or had we been more informed about what our team comp wanted to do, we could have more efficiently sort of followed up on those like on those needs that our team comp has for the way that we play and stuff like that, as opposed to trying to force weird things and then trading like a lot of people and ultimates for it. So yeah, ultimately I think a more thorough knowledge of the team composition, and not just the team composition, but engagements and how we want to take them was needed here to prevent the loss of so much. Like, I want to harp on the fact that, like, this is like pretty fundamental Overwatch knowledge that I've sort of listed here. So this doesn't apply just to Ball, Tracer, Zen, or anything like that. This could be, we would have to know how to engage if we played Brawl, if we played Double Bubble, or Double Shield, or any other composition. You have to know. You have to be in the know to be able to sort of weaponize that, you know? And I kind of, I want to run through an example, but I just can't place people on the map. Like, illustrate how you would want to play maybe like in the Double Bubble situation here, or a Double Shield or something. In any case, though, that's like a pretty decent example of where we're at with Overwatch fundamentals, and why this is a pretty valuable, I want to say unit, but that makes me sound too standardized, I guess. A good focus for us to maintain. Let's see. For that reason, though, I don't know how worth it is like going on and watching this, because it's going to be a lot more of the same. We end up costing ourselves a lot of different situations and a lot of resources when we didn't need to spend them, and much the same. Like, it's not just us, the enemy team is also really floundering when it comes to understanding their brawl comp and how they want to play and stuff like that into this composition, which is also interesting as well. And I think for that reason,
Oh,
yeah, go ahead.
No, you go first.
Oh, I was gonna say like perhaps a decent exercise would be watching the enemy team play and stuff like that or whatever. But
If we were to do that, shouldn't we go over the Thursday VODs of the team that also ran Ball Diva?
those may or may not be corrupted by the. I think they are.
Corrupted. Never mind, they are.
Yeah. That made me sad because I tried to load them up. But yeah, that team was really effective in killing the backline and stuff like that because they had a real purpose with their engagements. Ball and Tracer went in and they were like, we're going to kill Zen. That's the goal of this engagement. And by God, did they kill Zen. They did it in a way that even I wasn't able to keep up with on Brig and stuff like that. No, whatchamacallit. And I think that is on both sides of the coin. Those two really knew what their goal was and the purpose of their engagement, and we didn't know how to receive it. So we weren't positioning in a way where we could really capitalize or capitalize off of their engagement and minimize the damage that they did. And they were whatchamacallit, we just didn't know. We just didn't know. But yeah, they were really efficient in dispatching us. I thought that was really cool. I thought it was kind of cute. I haven't been killed in a while, so whatchamacallit, it feels good again. To really, like, to genuinely, I feel like, get outplayed. It's really refreshing sometimes. Even though it feels bad at first. Because we have many learning opportunities like this.
I was gonna say, like, getting outplayed is kind of bad. But I mean...
Now you know. Don't do it again. That's how my mind says it to me anyway. But I wouldn't talk to you guys like that.
Oh, yeah.
No, but yeah. Like, just getting outplayed and stuff like that and learning comps and studying just gives you like a context, a lot of context on how to play the comp and what you want to be doing in these scenarios and stuff like that. And I think being able to recognize that is a really big thing, and being able to learn and weaponize that is another huge thing that differentiates a lot of players from one another. So yeah, I would like to have gone over the VODs from Thursday, but unfortunately they don't work with this new Chinese or Lunar New Year patch. So I hesitate to analyze like pro VODs or just like any old VODs, but I kind of want to at the same time. I'm gonna do it. Which means that I'm going to have to switch my little stream setup too. So hold on for just a moment as I get. Guess I'll have to pull some old stuff up on YouTube or something. And the cool thing about these Overwatch fundamentals is that it really spans metas in the game. Like, it's sort of metacognitive. It's thinking about how we're thinking. It's thinking about how we're playing the game, what we're doing and stuff like that. And there are many layers that I'm sort of not covering here, like mindset and emotion and teammates and the enemy team, like that I haven't yet covered. But whatchamacallit, there's a lot of really cool stuff to go over. Let's see. Yeah, I'm just going to look up Overwatch scrims on YouTube. Let's hope that nothing is too horrible here. Ooh. Actually, this kind of sucks because probably not a lot of them are going to be top down or something like that.
I was gonna say, I don't know how many are gonna be like what we need in terms of analysis. I missed the replay viewer for Overwatch League.
And see, the thing is, I would go to that too as a resource, but that is all about like a lane comp, and that's a weird comp with weird engagements. Like, it's because so many snipers, and it's like, are we ever taking a real engagement that's not just hard poking each other out? Smile.
Pretty much.
Legitimately. Um, oh man.
I don't really know how much review is going to help this sort of thing because a lot of this is implemented, you know, in game. And like we can talk about it all day, but at the end of the day, you need, practical experience with this sort of thing.
Sure. That's like any VUD review.
Well, yeah, but I guess what I'm trying to say is encouraging self-learning with this sort of thing as we always do, but even more so now because, it's the basics. And if we don't have a good grasp on the basics,
And we will never have a
I don't
good
know.
grasp of understanding the game and understanding compositions as a whole and enabling
Yeah.
each other as a team and stuff like that. Like it's really
Pretty
underrated,
much
frankly.
I think what we need the team to do, if they can before Tuesday, is to go over the games and like take a like real long sit down over a cup of coffee or something, and because what I hear a lot of is I don't know how to play X or I don't know how this works. So really, what it is I don't know what I don't know, and where we need to be is I know what I don't know with this composition.
So instead of being I
Instead
don't
of being
understand how to play diva in this composition. It's going to be like I'm just picking her out of the bunch
yeah,
because she's a weird one. But
she's the
instead,
weird
it's
one.
like I don't know how to use D matrix in this composition yet.
I don't know how to position myself on Diva. I don't know, you know, I don't know if I should be engaging or if I should be peeling back in X situation, like those sorts of things.
Mm-hmm.
Instead of just being like slapping the label of I don't know across the like across the board. Because when we get to that phase, it's just kind of like, well, oops, can't really help you there.
It's like that's a good thing because it's like where do we start? And then like as a
Yeah,
coach, we can give like obviously that's an all too common request among so many clients is like I just don't know how to play Ana. And that's like okay, well let's go over the basics of Ana, and I can touch on so many crazy things with Ana and all of this and all that, but it might not have been the thing that they needed to hear to really improve.
yeah, because then sometimes they'll be like, yeah, I know that, and it's like, great, awesome.
So yeah, I mean you know a little bit of how to play Ana, I guess. And they're just like I still don't know, and it's like well
Because like
how can we
most
help
of
you?
us on this team know how to play the heroes and they understand the fundamentals of the heroes. But what it comes down to now is slotting those sorts of things and slotting those fundamentals into the context of the compositions that we're playing. And being like, because we're playing such a poke heavy, flank heavy comp, how do I position myself in a way that leverages that? How do we engage in a way that benefits that? How do we like all those sorts of things?
And it's really like this is something I want to push as like a team wide effort to be able to understand like to really look at not just a composition but just understanding what that means for you
Because
because
I think this problem that we have with this composition and not knowing translates over to other compositions because I feel like we'll lose fights and then not know why.
yeah I don't know and then people are just like well I just didn't get healed or like that's like the ranked thing that's all too common it's just like oh
And
that's not healing me it's like gee
it's like, but you have to consider why.
like maybe just maybe there's a reason somewhere out there yeah, whatchamacallit, like there is almost always a reason or a justification for some things. A justification may be less at our current whatchamacallit ability with some of these fundamentals. But as we go forward there can be intention and stuff like that. Like
Yeah.
a lot of a lot of really cool things that I see from just Overwatch League stuff that isn't really talked about sometimes, but you hear it a lot more in like contenders broadcasts. It's like playing for map control and trying to sacrificing ultimates even to take control of a part of the map that your supports are strong in or that your players are strong in or that you want to control and stuff like that like that's a whole area that's like sort of untouched green grass for us to frolic in, potentially. But first, we got to know our comps and how we engage, the basics, how we disengage, how we move, you know, where we want to play, how we want to do things. So ultimately, it will soon be us, provided we all do our work, that will game sense diff other people, and not the other way around. Or it will soon be us that will be doing the outplaying, so to speak.
Yes.
Yeah, whatchamacallit, I don't know how much more I have to speak on the issue, on just the state of things. Besides that, I'll be happy to post pictures of some of my notes or a transcription or something like that so far. I'd be happy to potentially go over games or watch you guys play, and help that help me understand you guys, and slot some of those fundamentals in as well. But yeah, I think that's all I have for now. Is there anything else you have, Topaz?
Not really. Not that I would say, now at least.
Sure, yeah. So yep, I'm not really a homework person, because let's just say I got a little homework of my own to do. But whatchamacallit, I would really encourage you guys to sort of look back, not just at yes at the matches, but really just observing the way that people play the game and asking yourself like, oh, like of course, but mainly geared towards engagements and disengagements right now, and understanding like heroes in a comp setting and stuff like that, or in a as part of a composition. Um, just acknowledging what that means for you and stuff like that. I think I want to do an example, but at the same time, I feel like I've done so many.
I think we were kind of wearing it thin on that front.
Oh wow, excuse me, Mr. Impatient. No, I'm kidding. No, I get it. I get it.
What I'm saying is, like, I think
You gotta leave some room for them, right?
we can provide examples all day, but we can't force things into your mind. You have to grapple with it yourselves.
Yep. Which is why I wrote the
Maybe
list
come
of
up with examples
questions.
of your own instead of us feeding them to you.
That
We can help you along the way, but at some point we gotta stop holding your hand.
that is individual player growth. Smile.
Yes.
So yes.
That being said,
Wow.
pretty much.
Yeah, I guess that's really all I have. I'll end my video here.